Okay, so it wasn't actually called E3, but the presentations of what more or less would have been E3 have now played out, and the gaming pipeline has been filled out for another year. Now, I'm not going to say that we don't need E3 anymore because of this, because I still just see too much value in the condensed news cycle that gets all the presentations packed into a single week that you can take off work and just spend the entire time watching trailers and soaking up information on the games that got announced, and that will be worth another video later. Still, it's clear that an E3 of sorts did happen throughout the month of June, and going announcement for announcement, it was honestly one of the better ones. One quick note, even though this is being recorded after the limited run presentation, games from that presentation won't be included here. I honestly feel that was also worth its own video, and it would strike me as weird to include presentations from mid-July in this mix. That's just pushing it too far even for a dispersed E3. With that out of the way, here are my top 10 games of not E3 2023. Strategy RPGs aren't usually my favorites, unless we're talking about the real top of the top tier stuff like Fire Emblem. Still, I'd be lying if I claimed that Persona 5 Tactica didn't catch my eye from the moment it was announced. Atlus rarely goes wrong with RPGs of any kind, and the ones associated with the Shin Megami Tensei label are among the best. I often get called a bad fan for not playing the spin-offs of franchises I like, because it's generally the core gameplay of those franchises that make me a fan, rather than the setting or the story, but this is one that will get my business. I look forward to giving it a try later this year. I've been a fan of city builders since the original SimCity landed on the Super NES, so it's been very troubling to see what SimCity has become. Thankfully, Cities Skylines came along and offered an equally chill replacement right as SimCity went into decline. Cities Skylines 2 looks to fix a lot of issues that original release had, and was a very well-kept secret going into Microsoft's show. It's wonderful to know there's a city builder coming where you can actually experience your creation from the ground level. I imagine I'll be putting a lot of time into this game to unwind from many a long workday. Dragon's Dogma and its expansion, Dark Arisen, made for a very underrated 7th gen action RPG, so I was thrilled to see how its sequel, Dragon's Dogma 2, is coming along. Capcom would really do well to take more steps into the RPG space, because everything they seem to do there turns out really good. Hopefully if Dragon's Dogma 2 does well, we might see such a movement within Capcom Studios. Even if that doesn't happen, however, I strongly believe that we're still getting an engrossing epic here that I can't wait to add to my library. Mortal Kombat is really the tale of two completely different series. Midway-era Mortal Kombat was generally a spectacular gore fest for casuals that didn't hold anywhere near the depth or balance of the output from studios like Capcom, Sega, and SNK around that same time. On the other hand, NetherRealm-era Mortal Kombat is a deep and rewarding tactical fighting game that offers players lots of nuance and freedom to express themselves through their individual playstyles. As the NetherRealm era moves into its 4th installment, we're seeing the addition of cameo fighters that serve effectively the same purpose as Marvel vs. Capcom's assists. It will be really interesting to see how that translates to the more traditional 2D fighting approach of Mortal Kombat, and I'm absolutely here for it. I did a whole video about how Final Fantasy VII Remake won my attention once it became clear that it was by no means an actual attempt to replace Final Fantasy VII with an action game, and I definitely want to play through it before the second game in the trilogy, Rebirth, hits shelves. Rebirth looks spectacular from what we saw in June, not just hinting at its divergence from the source material, but openly reveling in it. I maintain that Final Fantasy VII does need an honest remake with classic gameplay and the kind of visuals we're seeing on this project, but I'm perfectly okay with rejoining this cast of characters for the unknown journey here. Seeing that it opens up the world of Final Fantasy VII from the vantage point we saw in this trailer tells me in no uncertain terms why it's going to ship on 2 Blu-rays. I'm genuinely excited now. Full disclosure, I've never played a Prince of Persia game, just never felt like my thing, either in its original form or the 6th gen refresh the IP got. However, being a fan of a good Metroidvania in any form, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown added itself to my list of anticipated games the instant it was unveiled. Admittedly, I don't play much from Ubisoft, having only made exceptions in recent years in the form of Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends. I have high hopes for this one, and if it pans out, maybe it can be the foundation of another series of games I can get into. When Star Ocean the Second Story R leaked ahead of the Nintendo Direct, I only expected it to be a port of Star Ocean Second Evolution, much like First Departure R before it. Needless to say, I was pleasantly surprised by the trailer we got at the Nintendo Direct, and better still, it was confirmed that a physical version was on the way, again, unlike First Departure R. Star Ocean is a series I never really took the time to get into, but I have every game in the series available to me, and this carefully constructed remake looks like a great opportunity for me to sit down and see what I've been missing all these years. Honestly, I will always take a new 2D Mario over a new 3D Mario. As sad as it is to see 2D Mario move on from New Super Mario Bros., which I hope a collection is coming to the Switch eventually, Super Mario Bros. Wonder feels like an interesting step for the franchise that still preserves the core gameplay that makes it so great to play nearly 40 years on. I've said before that Wonder Seeds feel a little too gimmicky for my tastes, but that's a minor complaint about a Mario game that really looks to have its level design and depth of power-up items on point. I can't wait to play this in October. Likewise, I absolutely love 2D Sonic games, and to see the series effectively step into its new Super Mario Bros. Era was a joy to behold. After a long stretch of being extremely lost with what felt like a parade of broken and gimmicky nonsense, it feels like the Sonic series is finding its stride again, and Sega is coming through here with a game that I am guaranteed to put a ton of time into just like it's 1993 again. Now it's clear that some of the Sonic Origins stuff was a testing ground for gameplay mechanics being put to work here, and I can't wait to see the completed product. Before I get to the number one pick, I do have some honorable mentions to go over. Persona 3 Reload is this year's case of hype deflation. The game was penciled in prominently on my original top 10 for the June announcements, but then we found out there was no FES content. Then we found out there was no portable content. Then we found out it wasn't actually coming to Switch. Honestly, if the game isn't collecting all of the expanded content onto a single release or giving me a way to own Persona 3 on a cartridge, I don't see what point there is to the remake. I'm sure it'll be a fine version for what it is, and I hate to spend a so-called honorable mention bashing a game, but Atlus is really missing the mark here on a game that originally occupied a top 3 spot on this list before the details came out. I would have actually liked The Crew if it wasn't for all the dumb action racing, crime drama trappings that not only defined that original game, but prompted the developers at Ivory Tower to coin the term action racing in the first place. Now, with The Crew Motorfest, it appears the franchise has grown up, occupying a more conventional racing-centric open-world model reminiscent of Forza Horizon. Hopefully it doesn't sour the series' iconic scope, because that was always its strong suit, and the thought of taking part in, essentially, a nationwide Horizon festival is compelling, to put it mildly. I'm not sold on it yet, but I'm keeping an eye on it for sure. I thought Kunitsu-gami, Path of the Goddess was a Monster Hunter Rise expansion with an emphasis on a horror motif when Capcom first showed it off. They have deep roots in heavily stylized action games, and this looks to be a worthy successor to that pedigree. It does probably have a really long development cycle ahead of it, as evidenced by the fact that Capcom pled the fifth on any release date disclosure, but I'm optimistic about this one and look forward to seeing it come along over presumably the next year or so. And my number one game of not E3 2023 is... Metaphor ReFantasio was to many a surprising new IP from Atlus, but I've been looking forward to it since late 2016 when it was called Project ReFantasy. The premise, as pitched at the time of that initial announcement by the team best known for the Persona series, was simple. In this day and age, when there are so many modern, sci-fi, and industrial age settings in the JRPG genre, the most revolutionary, against-the-grain thing you can do is go down the path of traditional medieval fantasy, and that's absolutely what they're doing here, albeit with their own twist. I can't tell if we're looking at time travel, isekai, or some weird combination therein, but after the Xbox showcase, I can't wait to find out more. My anticipation for this game was already high, but now it's something I'll be watching for with every trade show until it's out at some indefinite point in 2024. How about everyone watching this? What games shown at the various presentations throughout the month of June got you the most excited? Let me know down in the comments and let's talk about it. Before I close, I just want to add that there is a channel rebrand coming up very soon, to the point that this is, if not the last video under the SP Patrick banner, at least one of the last videos before the channel adopts a new identity. I've been actively working on this rebrand for the last couple of weeks, which is why content has slowed down as much as it has, but I wanted to take a moment to let you know that the same content that brought you to this channel, whatever it is safe moving forward. There is a new facet of the channel, import gaming, that will be a huge focus from here on, but the actual rebrand is about evolving the channel's existing identity, and not at all about leaving any type of content behind. The way I approach import gaming, it will fit right in with everything I'm already doing, so don't worry about that either. And that's all for now. If you like this video, then as always, I ask you to please like, comment, share, and subscribe. All the standard YouTube stuff that helps elevate the channel. Click the notification bell to know right away when the next video is up. I'm Patrick Mifflin, and I'll see you back here soon.